In a world where for the majority travel signifies little more than getting from A to B in the quickest and most convenient way possible, there are few experiences which evoke the elegant spirit of days gone by. Of the few that pay homage to that gentler age, one stands out. Last of her line, tribute to the past. QE2, the Queen of the Seas. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The QE2 has returned to the port of Southampton on the south coast of England. The ship has completed 3 months of her world tour and is now being prepared for the final leg, a Mediterranean cruise. The departure lounge is full as new passengers check in. For many, they're about to embark on a once-in-a-lifetime experience. For the crew, it's a brief moment's rest from the sea, but not from their duties on board the last great ocean liner. The QE2 is a constant hive of industry. Arrival, reloading, restocking, embarkation and departure. The whole process takes as little as 6 hours before the ship is ready to head for the open sea. Although she's slightly smaller than her predecessors, at 963 feet and 69,000 tons, the QE2 is still the 6th largest liner ever built. And with a top speed of 32.5 knots, she's certainly the fastest in service. There are 13 decks, 951 cabins for almost 1,800 guests, 5 restaurants, shops, a bank and a hospital, and over 1,000 crew members welcoming passengers on board. Departure is underway. The gangplanks are lifted, the ropes slipped, and the huge hull floats free in the water. The tugboats, dwarfed by the colossus of the Great Cunarder, pull the ship into life. Since her maiden voyage in 1969, the QE2 has carried over 1.5 million passengers, travelled more than 3 million miles, and called at some 150 different ports. But it's some of the unexpected details that are astonishing. Like in one single year, the QE2 can comfortably consume over 2.5 tons of caviar, crack more than 3 million eggs, and use up enough cling film to wrap the whole ship 730 times over. On this trip, we'll be joining her as she heads for the ports of Gibraltar, Ajaccio, and the Bay of Naples. During the voyage, we'll take time to wander her decks, unlock some of her secrets, and find out what makes them call this ship the last Queen of the Seas. She was built on Clydebank, heir to a great tradition. The Queen went there to launch her. the last truly ocean-going liner with a pedigree stretching back to 1840, when Samuel Cunard started the world's first regular transatlantic steamship service, carrying mail from Liverpool to Boston and Halifax, Nova Scotia, on his ship the Britannia. Then it took 14 days to cross the Atlantic. This ship does it in 5. The reputation for excellence and luxury emerged during the golden age of ocean travel from the 1920s to the 1950s. A reputation this ship carries on today. It was, of course, once the only way to cross. Today, many reckon the QE2 makes sure it still is. There are nearly 30 grades of suites and staterooms on board, from the magnificent penthouses to more cosy cabins. All of them linked by a myriad of stairways, lifts and corridors. The corridor on 3 deck is actually the longest on any passenger liner currently at sea. No matter which grade of stateroom, all are equipped with modern satellite telephones, where you can call anywhere in the world, and a 7-channel TV station. Cunard's room service has the reputation for being just as courteous, efficient and reliable as it was in the days of the great passenger liners. It's 8 o'clock in the evening. As the sun sets over the Bay of Biscay, those involved in passenger entertainment gather for an informal cocktail party. There they meet the cruise director.
My role as cruise director is to manage a department of close to 100 people who are involved really in everything that happens to the passengers throughout the day and throughout the evening outside the specific navigation of the ship, the medical services on board, and specific food and service.
She is the last in a long line, a famous line. She was built for the North Atlantic as well as for cruising. And when she sort of finishes, I don't think we'll ever see the like of her again. And I think this is a big draw for Cunard to carry on this tradition.
The reputation that this ship has, just in prestige and mystique in a way around the world, because we are the last great transatlantic liner. There is no other ship that can still be called a liner.
It's that jet lag business, which you think you're going to lose 5 days out of your holiday on the crossing. And in fact, as I say, adds nearly a week to your holiday. In just relaxation terms, you step off the ship and call a yellow taxi, which is it's so exciting.
This ship's very diverse clientele. having been built as a transatlantic liner, we have some of the most expensive accommodation in the world. We also have some of the least expensive accommodation in the world. It's really built to take people from A to B across the Atlantic. So that means that at any given time there's going to be a very diverse clientele, very diverse group of passengers on board. And it's my job to try to juggle the eggs to keep those very varied people all happy. And that's a major task.
"10:30 a.m., the morning of the first full day at sea. Passengers are about to experience another great liner institution. It's boat drill, whatever the weather, and time for every passenger and crew member to learn the staple safety procedures of the ship, from the oldest down to the very youngest. Then the coast of North Africa rises through the clouds. The Rock of Gibraltar beckons through the early morning mist. The first sight of land, full steam through the Straits of Gibraltar as we approach our first port of call. At this point, many passengers plan to head for the shore, but just as many decide to stay right where they are. There's a postal service and a bookshop where passengers queue for signed copies from one of the many visiting authors on board. A popular library, well stocked with over 6,000 books and an extensive range of newspapers and magazines. In fact, the largest library at sea. A computer learning centre where you can brush up on old skills or acquire new ones. Regular church services and a synagogue. A hospital wittily situated at stairway C6 deck. If you're ill, just shout C6.
Well, we do have one of the best equipped hospitals on any ship afloat, other than possibly on aircraft carriers. Our hospital facility consists of an operating room, which everybody would expect us to have, of course, a well-equipped X-ray facility. We have 5 wards with a total of 12 beds for accommodating crew and passengers in different combinations. We have a crew consulting room and dispensary down there. We have a dentist surgery for when the dentist is on board. We have a full-time physiotherapist. And our passenger consulting facility is up where we are presently. Well, we can deal with anything and everything, basically, because when you've got up to 2,500 people at sea, particularly on a transatlantic voyage where you're out of touch with land for 5 days or so, then whatever happens you have it to deal with. and more or less anything in the medical field can and does happen from time to time on this ship.
Using the latest satellite technology, you can telephone and fax anywhere in the world. News updates are regularly received at the ship's radio room, enabling an international news bulletin to be sent to your room every day. One of the most popular features of the daily entertainment are regular celebrity lectures and ballroom dancing lessons. An onboard floral service, relying on blooms delicately preserved on ice so as to be constantly fresh. A laundry. A popular creche. A giant jigsaw for everyone to complete. A photo shop. Banking and currency exchange facilities. And the Queen's Room, one of the most beautiful areas on board with a view of the ocean. From 7 o'clock onwards, the restaurants are open for dinner. The menus change daily throughout the year, presenting the kitchens with an enormous challenge. There are 5 restaurants on board, each with its own distinct ambience, serving a range of haute cuisine. They're the Queen's Grill, the Princess Grill's Port and Starboard, the Columbia and the Mauritania, the latter named after the famous early 20th century liner. Every meal is complemented by a range of fine wines. Sommeliers are at hand to guide the passenger through a cellar stocked with 25,000 bottles. Some 1,200 disappear on a typical transatlantic voyage. As the waiters deliver each course, passengers remain unaware of the hectic atmosphere in the kitchen.
Preparing the food for both the Princess Grills. That's the first class luxury passengers. There's about 100 in each restaurant. I've been on the ship now for just over 3 years. I started off in the cold kitchen making canapes, and now I'm the chef de cuisine of both these grills. So I think you've got such a variety of food on here. We have all nationalities of chefs. We have a Thai chef in the kitchen here. We have Chinese, Malaysians, and you learn all the different culinary things from all around the world. It's not just plain English cooking or French cooking, it's such a variety of different things. I like cooking racks of lamb, foie gras. We have fresh foie gras on board. If I came into one of my grill rooms, I'd probably have chips with béarnaise sauce, because that's my favourite.
It's possible to eat all through the day and into the early hours of the morning. Food is always being served somewhere on board. "174 waiters and waitresses work under the watchful eye of the executive chef.
As executive chef, I'm more or less in charge for the whole food operation. That means both passengers and crew. On the passenger side, we have 5 restaurants, and on top of that, you have 1 restaurant which is just catering for the crew, 1,040 crew members, and approximately 1,800 passengers on a daily basis. The Queen's crew is the top passenger, as I call it. They more or less, they can get what they want. They don't need to follow the menu. They have special orders anytime they want. Then you have the Princess Grill 1 and Princess Grill 2, which is more or less the same restaurant. You have the Mauritania and the Colombia as well. Colombia is still, I would say, it's a first-class restaurant. The only difference between Mauritania and Colombia is that the Mauritania has a double sitting. So we could do twice 450 people in a double sitting. The popular dishes are still all the traditional dish, like lobster thermidor, you have the beef Wellington. That's the kind of dishes which people like. For instance, lobster night. I use approximately 1,000 whole lobsters in that evening. To give you an idea how big it is, when I say that I have 91 chefs and 8 sous chefs and 4 chefs de cuisines, and about 63 on top of that kitchen staff, utility men, which are taking care of all the, not only the cleaning, but also bringing the production from the hotel stores, which is 6 decks below. Gives an idea which distance the whole food operation is covering. As far as I know, QE2 has as an area, the biggest kitchen afloat on all ships. You could get lost here on the ship, in my kitchen.
We're now cruising towards Ajaccio, and it's on to more food. This time a midnight buffet with a distinctly Mediterranean theme, complemented by the hot rhythm jazz band and dancing. The QE2 has been described as a city at sea, and no city is complete without shops. QE2 souvenirs rub shoulders with leading designer labels: Gucci, Dior, Cartier, Aquascutum. A shopping mall with 11 stores, and the only ocean-going branch of Harrods can be found on one deck. There's art everywhere, complementing the ship's distinctive interiors. In the quarterdeck lobby opposite the Columbia restaurant, for example, there are 3 superb tapestries by Helena Barinina Henmark, depicting the heady scenes of the day in September 1967 when the QE2 was launched. At that time, she was known simply and anonymously as number 736. The rumours about the name of the new ship were as numerous as they had been for the launching of the Queen Mary 30 years before. Queen Elizabeth was eventually settled on. Her elder sister would be out of service by the time of her maiden voyage. And Cunard were delighted when the Queen opened the envelope and personally altered the title to Queen Elizabeth II. Back in 1967, the steam-turbined, white-funnelled ship was state-of-the-art modern ocean-going architecture. The period look has been preserved, but since 1987, the QE2's been diesel-electric powered. When the sun comes out, the decks bustle with activity. The glass roof, known as the Magra Dome, opens over the quarterdeck pool, allowing the passengers to lie back and relax in the heat of the Mediterranean sun. There are 2 outdoor pools, 2 jacuzzis, 3 decks for the active and the inactive.
Well, I'm the hotel manager, which means I'm in charge basically for everything else except the driving and the machinery, you know what I mean. I cover all the entertainment, restaurants, kitchens, shops, you name it. We're very happy to say that there is no routine on the QE2 because we don't do these boring 14-day cruises, you know what I mean. The ships in the Caribbean, they go 14 days. Every Tuesday they're in Barbados and every Friday they're in St. Thomas. We do different cruises. Now we go in Mediterranean, then we go transatlantic, so we go all over the world constantly. So there's no routine. It's always a new start, new fresh cruise, a new challenge.
And not everyone wants to sunbathe. At the sports area on upper deck, there's paddle tennis, as well as such traditional on-deck activities as deck quoits and shuffleboard, and even a putting green. The weather, however, plays no part in the equally healthy pursuits of the passengers at the Steiner Health Spa on 6 deck. When it was opened in 1993, it was the only one of its kind at sea. The state-of-the-art surroundings combined with the latest spa technology. Aromatherapy and thalassotherapy, sauna and massage provide a contrast to the hustle and bustle on the decks above. At G Stairway 1 deck, the hair salon caters to passengers' needs. The salon is for men and women with an emphasis on evening styles, always in demand for the numerous social events on board. Facial beauty therapy is also available in private rooms. The salon is complemented by a health and fitness centre on 7 deck. It's been estimated that it would take 4 months for passengers to take advantage of every service offered on board the QE2.
Yes, curl the arms into a bicep curl. As we're stepping, you're gonna curl the arms to a bicep curl.
The QE2 surges through a gentle Mediterranean evening. Passengers prepare for a great seagoing tradition, the captain's cocktail party. It's an occasion repeated on various evenings throughout the cruise, ensuring that each and every passenger meets the captain.
Good evening. My name is nice to see you.
Commemorative photographs are taken. Guests don their best attire. Not so different to the balls and dinners which attracted the fashionable elite on board the liners of the 1930s.
I think the idea is, of people coming on here anyway, is that we can offer them some style, we can offer them a degree of pampering that is probably doesn't exist anywhere else. Now, even the best hotels in London, I still think we can out-pamper. We can take you to interesting places. And for the British, and the North Americans, the name of Cunard means something, and that's why people come here. That's why we have the red funnel, and you'll feel it, you'll sense it around the ship that people are happy to be on QE2 because she's QE2. I've been involved in her since Clydebank in 1968. I spent 2 years up there standing by the ship, so she's very much. I met my wife here, so I have a great affection. But seriously, I feel very proud to be the master of the ship.
On a ship, I mean, you only have to pack once, which is great. You get to see the world. I mean, on this trip, I mean, I've been around South America. I've been to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, through the Panama Canal. Heading down to the Meade now, so I mean, you really see. But then, you know, I remember 2 years ago we were in India, in Madras, and it was very interesting. But you know, you come back at the end of the day and you see the ship there, and you know that's your home. It's like your home's almost going with you.
Nightlife on board the QE2 is equally evocative. Cabaret and dancing in the theatre bar to the strains of a jazz band. It's showtime in the Grand Lounge, the largest room ever constructed on board a passenger liner, with 2 shows a night, ensuring that as many passengers as possible get the chance to sit back and enjoy it. Cocktails to piano accompaniment in the yacht club, and the opportunity to try your luck at roulette, blackjack, and one of the 68 slot machines in the casino. Far below, others are at work. A crew of just over 1,000 is busy running the ship. The engine room is the very heart of the vessel. Its new diesel-electric main propulsion system is designed to provide greater fuel economy and flexibility, ensuring the ship's survival through into the 21st century. It's a vast enterprise, responsible for turning 2 30-ton propellers, overseen by 45 engineers.
I'm Chief Engineer, and my job is basically to keep the ship functional, keep it operational, to keep it cost effective and to keep it safe. QE2 was re-engined in 1986 and 87. We put in a diesel-electric plant. The previous plant was a steam turbine system. That had been in good service for 16, 17 years, but we're starting to age. So the decision was made to re-engine. The way it works is fairly simple. There's 9 diesel generators, of which we need to use 3, a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 9, and they produce electricity at 10,000 volts, which is used to drive 2 very large propulsion motors, which drive the propellers. The faster you want to go, the more diesels you put on. The slower you want to go, the less diesels you put on, down to a minimum of 3. When we're in port, for example, there's only one of those engines running, which is to feed all of the ship's services, air conditioning, ventilation, lighting, etc. Yeah, each diesel is about the size of a London double-decker bus. Each propulsion motor would be roughly equivalent to a double-decker bus on top of one another. 96 megawatts, of course, is the size of a relatively small power station in the UK, really, but probably big enough for the electrical needs of a small city or a large town. At a maximum speed of 30 knots, we can keep going for about 12 days. However, if we were to go at a slower speed of, say, 20 knots, we needn't use that many engines. We'd only need to use 3 of our 9 available engines. And 3 engines will move us along at 20 knots, which is 1/3 of the fuel consumption of using 9 engines. Hence, you'll be able to go that much further. I worked it out once. It's around about 2/3 of circumnavigation of the world. People quite often ask me, you know, how many miles do you do to the gallon, trying to relate it to a car. That's quite an interesting statistic as well, because at service speed, we do about 50 feet to the gallon.
Breakfast, and the ship is arriving at the island of Corsica.
Thank you.
Some passengers choose to eat al fresco, studying the events and entertainments outlined in the ship's daily programme. These are delivered to each cabin at the beginning of the day. Besides breakfast in the restaurants, a buffet is available in the Club Lido. Others head ashore for another morning of sightseeing and discovery. Passengers have the option of doing their own thing or taking a tour of the surrounding countryside. One of the major attractions of a cruise like this is the travelling from location to location in luxurious surroundings.
This ship's, to begin with, is dual purpose. She was designed for 2 roles, cruising and transatlantic. Dimension-wise, she's almost the same size as the Queen Elizabeth and the Queen Mary. But in fact, she's 23,000 tons lighter because of the dual purpose of cruising. They lightened her and reduced the draft from 40 feet to 35, and now up to 32 feet. I suppose, sadly, probably she is the last of her type. The ship cost £36 million. And I suspect to try and repeat that, you'd probably have to add several noughts on the back end now to do it. You'd also you'd have difficulty finding a shipyard that would want to take it on. The ship itself is terribly strong. The shell plating is thicker than anything else I've ever sailed in, apart from a battleship. We've got a hell of a reputation, Cunard Line. You know, for 150 years we've done it properly, apart from wartime casualties. The safety systems that are built into the ship, albeit it's 30 years ago, are amazingly up to date. I mean, the ship is in class still. We have a very professional, very motivated bunch of officers on this ship. A lot of people sort of talk about a ship's company, and we have a good crew. But you never have a good crew unless you've got good officers. And here they're very professional, very motivated people. This cabin has had 12 captains in it since 1969. And not much has really changed, which either says that the way the Scots built the ship was pretty good, or that we're not terribly enterprising. But I like to leave it like this. It's placed here because it's close to the bridge. And around me, if you like, I've got the 4 senior officers who live on this deck. Right below me is the officers' wardroom. So I'm insulated here a bit. But you go just through that door and you're back in passenger country again. Still, one of the biggest thrills in my life is coming back to this ship and walking along the dockside, particularly in the dark, and just looking up at it. It's big and it's black and it's shiny and it's mine, you know, and it's a tremendous feeling.
It's 4 p.m. and having completed their onshore tours, passengers head home. In the Queen's room, cakes, pastries and sandwiches are served at high tea. As passengers relax and discuss the events of the day, they remain oblivious to the activity taking place on the deck. The ship is preparing for the next stage of its voyage. New ports beckon, other passengers will board. The QE2 never rests. It's part of the magic and the key to her title, the Queen of the Seas.